Hello, welcome to Gurukul's Cat 100 series, a series that's designed specifically to take you from your study room to the corporate boardroom. I am Prady Sharma and this is Verbal Mastery with Prady. Hello guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be solving 5 VA questions. Now, if you want to take this up as a test, all you've got to do is go on to www.gurukul.org.in and click on the login button over here. You'll be redirected to a sign up page. Once you sign up, you can get access to the 100 days to CAT test series. Now, this series is a completely free test series that's been designed specifically to keep one thing in mind, keep you consistent with your CAT 2025 prep and make sure that you crack CAT 2025 this year itself. So, without any further ado, let's get into the questions and then we'll look at the explanations of the questions. This is your question number 1. Pause the video here, answer this question and then we'll move on to the second question. This is your question number 2. Pause the video here, answer this question and then we'll move on to the third question. This is your question number 3. Pause the video here, answer this question and then we'll move on to the fourth question. This is your question number 4. Pause the video here, answer this question and then we'll move on to the fifth question. This is your question number 5. Pause the video here, this is the last question, answer this question and then we'll move on to the explanations for all these questions. Before we get into the explanations, please type down in the comment box what you like about this series. If you'd like some more interesting sets or more difficult passages to solve, we'll get all of that for you. Drop a like. Let's get into the explanations quickly. So, the first question is a para summary type of question. Yes, what does it say? According to its own traditions, the teachings of Jainism are eternal and hence have no founder. So that means Jainism does not have a founder. Why? Because its own teachings are eternal. Okay, they believe that their teachings are eternal. However, the Jainism of this age can be traced back to Mahavira, but whatever Jainism we are looking at now, that can be traced back to Mahavira. That means Mahavira must have started it. A teacher of the 6th century BCE, a contemporary of Buddha. Like those of the Buddha, Mahavira's doctrines were formulated as a reaction and rejection of the Brahmanism, then taking shape. So far what can I understand? According to its own traditions, teachings of Jainism are eternal. So there's no founder. Yes, but Jainism of this age can be tracked to Mahavira. I'm just underlining all the important points, guys. Again, a teacher of the 6th century BCE and all is not necessarily contemporary of Buddha. Again, like those of Buddha, Mahavira's doctrines also formulated as a reaction and rejection to the Brahmanism, which was taking shape back then. What was this? The Brahmins taught the division of society. So apparently, this Brahmanism was not about nothing else but the division of society into rigidly delineated castes and a doctrine of reincarnation, which was guided by karma or merit brought out by moral qualities of actions. Their schools of thought. Now, whose schools of thought? Okay, the Brahmin schools of thought. Alright, so their schools of thought, since they respected the authority of Vedas and Upanishads, were known as orthodox darshanas. So orthodox darshanas was nothing but the Brahminic school of thought. Jainism and Buddhism, along with the school of materialists called as Charvaka, were regarded as the unorthodox darshanas. So Jainism, Buddhism and Charvaka together were the unorthodox darshanas, because they thought that the Vedas and Upanishads and hence the Brahmin caste had no authority. Right, so why were these people called as the unorthodox darshanas? Because they thought that Brahmins have no authority. That's what they had taught. Okay, now let's look at which is the best possible summary for this entire paragraph. Jainism originated with the teaching of Mahavira, a contemporary of Buddha. Like Buddhism, Jainism was a reaction to Brahmanism and rejected the authority of Vedas and Upanishads as unorthodox. Okay, first things first, they did not reject Vedas and Upanishads because they were unorthodox, right? Second thing, Jainism did not originate with the teaching of Mahavira, although the recent form of Jainism is of Mahavira, but one idea that it is eternal does not come to me in the A option. So clearly, this should not be my answer. B. Teachings of Jainism considered as eternal began with the teachings of Mahavira, great, who was a contemporary of Buddha. So far so good. Buddhism and Jainism are regarded as unorthodox by the Brahman caste, rejected the authority of Vedas and Upanishads. Now again, look at this part of the sentence carefully. Buddhism and Jainism regarded as unorthodox by the Brahman caste. Now, nowhere did we talk about how Brahman caste has viewed the Jainism and Buddhism, right? So this is actually playing with the words in a way that we will be, marking this as the answer, but very clearly, this part is not correct. So I'm going to take it off. Though considered eternal, teachings of Jainism can be traced back to Mahavira, contemporary of Buddha. Great. So till here, the both of these options are clear. Buddhism and Jainism rejected Brahmanism, its scriptures, caste system, and ideas of morality and reincarnation. Great. So far, this is all great. Okay. There's nothing that is not in the same tone as what we have mentioned. It's the same ideas as well. So this could be my correct answer. Option, Jainism considered eternal by its own traditions can be traced back to teachings of Mahavira. Buddhism and Jainism were reactions to prevalent Brahmanism and they rejected the authorities of Vedas and Upanishads. Very good. All of the points over here are also great. They're the same tone as in the passage, but from C to D, if I'm looking at it, C has one extra idea that's there in the passage. The contemporary of Buddha, Mahavira being the contemporary of Buddha idea, which is completely missing in D. So remember our philosophy, CAB, take the cab, it will take you home, clarity, accuracy and brevity. So C option is more accurate than D option. So our correct answer should be C option and not D option. Let's go for the second question. There are many people, again this is another para summary type of question, right? So there are many people who quite innocently and sincerely believe that if they're earnest, what is this word earnest? Okay, let's say this is nothing but honest, okay. If they are honest in attending to their personal spiritual needs, this amounts to a living morally good life. I know many activists, both religious and secular. So what does he say over here? He says that yes, there are a lot of people who are innocent enough to believe that yes, if they're taking care of their own spiritual needs, they're living a morally good life. Okay, I know of many activists, both religious and secular, who agree with me that these people are deluding themselves. Just taking care of one's own soul is self-centered. Consider, for instance, those contemplative monks who, unlike hard-working nuns in schools and hospitals, who devote most of their waking hours to the purification of their souls and the rest to the maintenance of the contemplative lifestyle to which they have now become accustomed. In what way exactly are they morally superior to the people who devote their lives improvising their stamp collections or their golf swing? So basically, what's he telling over here? He says that there are a lot of people who agree with him, and his viewpoint is that these people are not living a morally good life at all. Why is that? Because they're only taking care of their own spiritual needs. How is it, the author is questioning, how is it different from someone who is just pursuing their own hobbies? It's not really helping anyone else, right? Yes. So it seems to me that the best that can be said of them is that they manage to stay out of trouble. So what he's saying is that I cannot say that they're living a morally good life, but what I can say is that maybe they're staying out of trouble. So A, though many people believe that taking care of one's spiritual needs is moral, it is actually self-centered. So far it is okay. And doing so all the time is morally no superior than spending all of one's time on one's hobbies. Great. So this kind of perfectly fits what we have learned in the paragraph. He takes two main ideas of the paragraph, that yes, a lot of people, including himself, feel that just tending to your own spiritual needs is not moral. And second one, that you're not morally better than someone who's spending all their time on their hobbies. How are you any different is what he's questioning, right? So this kind of fits. Second one, though many religious people believe that taking care of one's soul is important to leading a morally good life, many secular people disagree with them. Now, again, over here, though many religious people believe that there's no dichotomy between religious people and secular people. Over here in the passage, he said that both religious and secular, right? So obviously, this is going to become an opposite answer, and again, remove this from my option. C. Though many people believe that taking care of one's spiritual needs is moral, it is actually self-centered. So fair enough, till this point, it's good. It is more moral to spend all of one's time on one's hobbies, as that keeps one out of the trouble. Now, guys, over here, that keeps one out of the trouble idea is there, I agree, and this is the trap that he's throwing you. He's throwing you this one extra piece of information, but he's changing the tone in the previous thing. Where did he tell you that these people are more moral or those people are more moral? The people with the, following the hobbies, are they more moral, or the people who are spiritually inclined, are they more moral? Nowhere in the passage has he told you that, right? So this is not in the clear state as what has been stated in the passage, so we can remove this. D. Many people believe that taking care of one's soul and spiritual needs amounts to living a good life. Okay, fair enough. However, many others disagree with them on this point and consider it as self-centered. Crazy. I understand where he's coming from. These two things are there. I agree with this. But this very partial scope a choice. This only covers one idea and it does not really summarize what has been told in the passage. So obviously, this is going to be wrong for me. Now let's go to the third question. As it is difficult to remember today how small houses were in the pre-industrial times, so too is it hard to comprehend the sheer labor and time involved in keeping that small place functioning. Okay, so he's talking about the houses and how things were back in the day, in the pre-industrial times. It's been estimated that 3 to 4 hours were spent daily on food preparation, an hour to fetch water, an hour to feed the children and to keep the fire alight, an hour in the kitchen garden, 2 to 3 hours to milk cows and goats, feed chickens and perform the other animal husbandry, an hour to clean, an hour to spinning, and an hour to spent looking after the children, teaching them to read and write or knit and sew, a total of 16 hours a day. So he's just telling us that, although the houses were small in the pre-industrial time, there was a lot of labor involved, there was a lot of work involved, almost 16 hours a day they used to work, and add in the laundry, which occupied approximately 8 hours weekly, and by the time meals were eaten, there was little time to do more than fall into the bed in order to get up and do it all over again the following day. So basically they didn't have time for anything else. Their lives were very, very packed, very busy. It actually took a lot of work to keep functioning over there in the pre-industrial times. Now let's look at what is the best option. A. In the pre-industrial times, it was difficult to imagine or understand how the small houses were and how much labor had to be invested to keep them running day after day. Okay, now I don't think it was really difficult to understand or imagine, because very clearly he showed us a very, very descriptive picture of what used to go on. So this does not really fit. In pre-industrial times, people lived in small houses that needed so much constant maintenance that they had no time to do anything but sleep. Now I have one problem. When he puts it in these terms, right, that they had no time to do anything but sleep, he makes us feel like sleeping was the only thing that they were doing or they had time for, which is again wrong. So let's take this one off. It's hard to imagine today how small houses in the pre-industrial times, how small houses were in the pre-industrial times, because the focus is on the huge amount of labor that was necessary to keep them functioning. Okay, now this is kind of okayish for us, but if D is better, then it's great, because this captures all the ideas that are there in the paragraph. But I'm looking for something more. In the pre-industrial times, the houses were small and it took great labor and more than 16 hours a day for routine chores to keep the houses functioning. Yes. Now over here, the best part is it's being very descriptive about what kind of time that was spent on routine chores, which is what was missing over here. So when I was thinking about it took huge amount of labor and all, it's okay, but the time consumption is not being told in the C option. Over here again, yeah, which left little time for anything else. So this again is another idea which I am seeing in the last part, right? Yes. So because this is more accurate than C, I can say that C will be a wrong answer. D should be my correct answer. Now let's go into the next question. 5 sentences are related, so this is an odd one out type of question. Yes. Passive sentences are useful in English because they allow people to say that something happened without having to say who did it. So basically subject is not given preference. That's what he's trying to say. Great. So I understand this is about passive sentences. Second one. Science writers use them a lot. Now use what a lot? Probably them could be about passive sentences. If I want to link that way, maybe that's possible, because a passive lets them say the mixture was poured into the beaker instead of the uncomfortably personal I or we poured the mixture into the beaker. So this becomes very, very scientific to say. So okay, maybe science writers use passive sentence a lot. So 1 and 2, probably I could find a link. Okay. 3. Children as young as 6 do not grasp that the change in the form of the verb between active and passive actually reverses the action. Okay. So third one talks about the nuances or the details of active passive conversion. So I'll have to see where this fits. Now fourth one, but everyone uses passive sometimes, saying things such as my house was just painted, or 2 people have been killed in an accident, or entry is prohibited. So here what I can see is that science writers use them for something, but everyone else also uses for something else. Okay. Now maybe there's no direct correlation, so I'm not going to combine these, but here also, see, this is obviously a definition, so this will be there. This is not going to be my odd man out, because every other sentence is about passives. But this second sentence and fourth sentence are talking about the usage of passive sentences, whereas third sentence is the only one which talks about the details of active passive conversion. Now let's look at fifth one. People who recommend that passive should be avoided. George Orwell was a famous instance. Forget cases like this where we want to report an action without naming the actor. Okay, great. So what I can now understand is that I have 1, 2, 4 and 5, all these 4 sentences which talk about the definition and uses, whereas third one is the only sentence that's talking about active passive conversion and how children are doing it. So obviously third one by theme differentiation will be my odd man out. Let's go for the last question of this day. Our body dries out with every passing year. Newborns are 75% water, not much different from an average potato. Okay, that's a fun visual to have, but all right. So we are talking probably about water percentages because that's what's being compared amongst in our bodies and average, children bodies. The first 2.7 billion years of the history of life on Earth was spent entirely in water, and the imprint is in every living organism. Okay, probably we are talking about, how human life that was spent in water is the reason why we are having water inside us. I don't know, maybe there's some sort of philosophy so far, but there's no direct connection between 1 and 2 as far as I'm looking at it. We may live on the blue planet, unique in the known universe for its abundance of liquid water, but our body's ocean lies on the inside. Okay, now I understand. 3 and 1 could be linked, not directly, but in the theme that we are talking about water in our bodies. Right, so this is something that I can think of. Now, most of the body's water, again, over here I see about the body's water is not in the fluid of our blood, but remains in the locked inside the cells of our muscles, brains and hearts. Great, okay, we are talking about where this water is. Fifth one says adult humans are about 57% water by weightage. Okay, now if I'm looking at this very carefully here, I can obviously say that third sentence looks the most generic to me out of all of these sentences, out of all the 5 sentences. So maybe I can start with 3. And once I start with 3, I could look at 1 and 5. Okay, 5 talks about adult humans and this talks about, again, comparison of adult humans with a baby, right? But, yeah, so probably I could go to 5 next, then 1, right? And when I say that, yes, over the years the body is drying out, the water is going off, where is the water? What is the place where the water is? Most of the body's water is not in the fluid of our blood, but remains logged. So, great. So, this 4 shows me where the water really is. So, 3, 5, 1, 4 could be an order with 2 as our odd man out. So, the correct answer for this should be 2. If you watched the video till here, please drop a like because that motivates us a lot to bring videos like this to you every single day and keep you consistent with your CAT 2025 prep. Comment whatever doubts you have and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I'll see you in the next video.
Hope you enjoyed learning from today's session.
This series is designed to help you with your CAT preparation and practice daily. We are with you in this journey.
To watch the next video, click here. And to watch Gurukul's CAT 100 series, study room to boardroom, the entire playlist, click here.
If you learned from today's session, like, share, and subscribe.